Hey, and welcome back to Making Music. I'm Jack vanBreen, your host, again sponsored by Guitar Showcase, and we're very blessed to have with us some very talented individuals. We've got Doc Green, Pro Audio Keyboard Manager from Guitar Showcase. We have John Hernandez, the local regional sales manager for Roland Corporation, and the inspiration behind the new Roland Showcase, as my shirt says, up at Guitar Showcase, which is really nice. And my special guest, by my request, Mike Snyder, percussion expert extraordinaire, to talk all about Roland percussion.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, this is great. Roland has always been the leader at percussion electronics. And in fact, as you viewers know, I like to bring my gear to the show because I don't want to just talk about everybody's stuff. We brought my Roland TD7 here in the center console. It's an ancient piece of gear, but works very well.
Kind of like Jack.
Kind of. Well, I don't work so well.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
All right, I wasn't going to go there.
And then we've brought the latest and greatest, the TD20S, which my wife won't let me buy yet. But, yes.
Yeah, you know, actually, TD7 is pretty amazing. That's a significant piece of gear in that it was the first complete electronic drum set ever available to the drummer. And by that I mean, really, you had open and close hi-hat, just like your acoustic drums, splashing, you were able to choke the cymbals. It was the first time, 1992, that happened in the TD7. It's just a significant piece of gear.
Yeah, and I waited till I could find one. At the time, they were retailing for around $2,000, and I found one in our consignment shop for $1,200. The pads had no marks.
Wow.
And that was like a no-brainer. I'll take it. And it's actually on one track on my CD. Because it was an all-acoustic CD, and I only put drums on one track. What can I say? Anyway, so Michael, tell us a little bit about the history of the Roland Electronics and where we're going.
Roland is actually a really cool company, and John actually standing behind keyboards, but being a drummer, he understands this too. Roland actually started off as an electronic drum company. In 1964, our founder, Mr. Kakahashi, we call him Mr. K for short, because most people can't pronounce his name, started a company called Acetone Electronics. And they produced all the push-button drum machines, those multicolored push-button drum machines that were in like Hammond organs and whatnot. That was his company. So their products was really, were drum machines in the beginning, 1964. Then around probably 1972, he founded Roland, and one of the first products was, again, a drum machine. I think it was a CR73, was that right, John, I think? Again, push-button style drum machine. So we've been steeped in electronic drums and percussion forever. 1984, 85 was really significant. We came out with, in fact, there's a kind of newer version of what came out, but it was originally called the Octopad, and it had no sounds on it, 1984.
I left mine at home because I didn't think it'd be relevant, but I own one.
You still have one?
I still have one.
Wow, yeah, it's a cool piece. It was 8 pads.
Looks like this piece back here behind me.
Mm-hmm. Except gray and black, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
So it was, had no sounds on board, but it was the first time there was something that a drummer could use a stick on and whack on and make sound. And you'd use via MIDI, you'd hook it up to other sound sources, and make whatever sounds you wanted. Even, dare I say, keyboard sounds and non-percussion or drum sounds. It was pretty
I
amazing.
actually used mine in conjunction with the TD7. I used my Octopad to drive a DR5, so my toms are on separate channels.
Yes.
Because the TD7 only has 4 outs,
Right.
and I want 6, because
Right.
I'm greedy.
Yeah, well, you know, guitar players are like that.
Yeah, what do I know? I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. I think one of the interesting things about Roland and its history with drums and whatnot is that they've always set the trend. I mean, you think of the Octopad, 1984, 85. It was the first time that a percussionist had something to hit. 1992, we had the TD7, or what was it, the TDE 7K drum set.
Yeah.
Yes, TDE 7K.
The first ergonomically configured drum kit that you could really sit down and have an experience of playing.
Just like your acoustic drums.
Yeah.
Except all anybody heard was, they didn't hear anything. It was really great. And in your head, you were just rocking out like too much metal for one hand. It was really great. We innovate. I mean, look at some of the other products that I know we're going to talk about. You know, the hand sonic. First time a hand percussionist could transfer from playing congas, boom, over to to an electronic instrument. So
And be packed up in 5 minutes instead of 50.
yeah, I know. Which it helps at the end of the gig for getting out to your car and. Yeah, we won't go there. Anyway, so that's another story. So this guy goes to the doctor. No, I'm just kidding. That was pretty slick getting out of that one, wasn't it? All right. Really, so 97, a really cool thing happened, and this kind of brings us up to the TD20, which you were showing there, which came out in about 2001. But 97, we got this mesh head right here. Probably kind of hard to see back here, but it's tunable just like an acoustic drum set. It's pretty cool. In fact, had a key around here somewhere. Keyboard manager and bass player's got a drum key. Love you. Look at this.
Key.
The key to my heart. Okay. Yeah, actually, you can take it and tune these things just like you do acoustic drums. You can tune them for feel. They feel like acoustic drums, and more importantly, they're really super quiet. And they feel good. You don't get the tennis elbow like you do with some of the older pads.
With my TD7.
TD7, or worse yet, Simmons drums from the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was literally like hitting
Rock.
a countertop. It was Formica on wood.
Yeah. My dad's drummer had one of those Simmons kits.
Did he?
Of course, as a kid, we thought that was the coolest thing.
It
man.
was.
Like,
At the
sounds
time.
that you got out of that thing was just amazing.
And now we want them again. Right?
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
know.
can I find a Simmons? Anybody got a Simmons SDS5? Email me. Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. Working on my internal voice. We've got these mesh heads, and it changed electronic drums because for the first time we could do things you wouldn't expect to do with electronic drums. Like, how about play like jazz? Right? It tracked really well.
With all the subtleties.
Totally all the subtleties. In fact, I go in here. By the way, this is the new TD9, and I know you've been really digging on this.
I really dig this kit. One of my favorite things about it is, obviously I'm not really a drummer. I'm mainly a bass player, and I'm a sound engineer. But I think every bass player in the world wants to be a drummer, and every drummer wants to be a bass player, I think. So for me to get down on this kit, and I've actually been able to work on my rhythm a lot because of the built-in the rhythm patches and stuff that are in this kit. With some of the song stylings and stuff, I'm able to work on some of my different styles and stuff, and so I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Oh, absolutely. I think, and it's true. And I tried to play bass for a couple of years. Bought a bass. Bought a Walter Woods amp.
Oh,
Okay,
wow,
so
you really
was
went
into
out,
it.
man.
I'm totally into it. And for you bass players out there, that's a really cool thing. I was like, no. I don't get this at all. Anyway, so I stuck with drums, and it's a cool thing. You were talking about the preset tunes. This is one of them. This is a jazz tune that's in here. Now, I hear there are drums going. I can mute them. And thank you. Stop. The cool thing actually about this is up until this point, we played with sequences in drum modules and whatnot, and sequences are pretty stiff, I think I would say. This is actually in the TD9 module. We're using audio. So I played the song again without the drums. And listen, I'm going to mute everything but the bass. Listen to the bass. It's actually an acoustic bass player playing a big old doghouse. And even though it's an acoustic instrument, I can still change the tempo, which is a huge thing.
Wow, that I didn't know.
Audio.
You just showed me something new.
Yeah.
All right, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, a lot of different styles of music in here.
And the nice thing that I like to point out for some of the less experienced viewers is that my biggest problem with practicing, which is why I usually don't, is it's boring by myself.
Right.
You know, you get, it's hard to keep track. Having an actual song to play to just opens up all these possibilities.
Yeah. Well, and it's inspiring. I think none of us got into playing music for the money, I don't think.
Because
really.
God knows there isn't any.
No, we got, my point. We got into it, I got into it the first time, okay, true confessions here, folks. The first time I heard Tower Power and David Garibaldi play What Is Hip, it was just like, thank you, what is that music? My feet moved, I have to do that. And Maria Muldaur, Midnight at the Oasis, 7th grade, I was in love. So it was those two things that got me playing music. It wasn't about money, it was really about groove and sound. And as guitar players, I hate to say, are a lot like drummers, or drummers are a lot like guitar players, in that we're totally into sound. I mean, how many guitars do you have? Yeah.
That I can admit in public? My wife will see the show, I've got 12.
Okay, yeah, exactly. I have 32 snare drums.
Ow!
And by the way, great joke for you at home. Do you know how many snare drums a drummer needs? Just one more. Just one more. Anyway, yeah, I'll be here weekly with an A. No, I think one of the greatest things, the story about the TD9, and prior to that, the TD20 and TD10 before that, when I got my first mesh pad kit, the cool thing about it was I took it out off the truck. It came via DHL because UPS was on strike. Thanks. And set it up, and this was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and about 2 o'clock in the morning, I hear this little gentle knock on the door. It was my wife. She goes, "Are you coming to bed?" It was like, I was just like 7 hours, I was just playing this drums. It was, oh my goodness, it's fun again, you know, and it brings it, because I can sit down and play, you know, rock and roll, or kind of a basic rock thing. And with great sounding drums, and then immediately turn around and play jazz. Now, I'm a freak, I have a lot of drum sets, but I'm not going to go set up another acoustic drum set. I can switch around and play.
Now, do you find that producers, when you go, because I know you do a lot of session work, and it's useful to be able to go in there and say, well, I'm something a little bit more Bonham, or a little bit more Ringo, or a little bit more, you know, and you can just go, oh yeah, I've got that kit right here.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, the way most music is recorded nowadays, I mean, I think you have a home studio.
I do.
And I don't know whether you do, Doc. I imagine you probably have one. And
Roland VS24.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, we all have home studios. And the way you get a drum sound is you're looking at it, electronic drums. I mean, that's really the only way to do it nowadays, because you take an acoustic drum set into most studios, which are small production studios, and they have, like, first of all, they don't have a drum. It's a bedroom, okay? It's not really a studio.
Right.
It's, you know,
12 by 14 if you're lucky.
if you're lucky. And so the drums are going to be set up in there whether you're trying to record, and you open their mic locker, mic drawer, okay? And it's got, like, you know,
An
a Beta
SM57.
58, a 57, and maybe another 57. Looks like somebody framed the house with it, okay?
Yes.
And you're not going to get a great acoustic drum sound with that. I mean, a good acoustic drum sound takes a lot of dough to do. You need great preamps, great mics. Oh yeah, and your drums have to sound good. Electronics now have actually taken that whole middle expensive part out, the mics and the preamps, and we're just taking, like here, we're just taking stereo out. And we have 50 different kits, you know, from to, you know, to, I mean, at the touch of a button, you know, and that's $1 million drum sound right there.
I know a lot of people I've even seen in the major recording sessions and stuff. A lot of guys, even though they may be using their acoustic kits, are also putting triggers on their kits and using the Roland V-drum heads to get those sounds.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a drummer in Los Angeles, probably one of the most recorded acoustic drummers, Jim Keltner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Familiar with Jim? Yeah, everybody like, oh yeah, Jim Keltner.
Yeah. Well, my dad used to play bass with him.
Really?
So, yeah.
Keltner's
Years
a
ago.
great drummer, and he's known as being an acoustic guy. I mean, he's known as Mr. Acoustic. You want not what every other acoustic drummer would do, but him to put a different spin on it, and man, Keltner's your man. Los Lobos, I mean, but Keltner's been into triggering and whatnot for quite a long time. He brings a TD-20 set to every acoustic drum gig he does now, every session he does. And he's an acoustic drummer. It just, a drum date means you bring your electronics too. I mean, it's just another instrument.
Right.
It's not either or. Just like having a piccolo snare drum now, you know, you got to have V-drums. It's part of our arsenal.
Yeah, that's great. I know one of the other great uses for it at my church. We pride ourselves on the fact that if you turn down the mains in the building, you don't hear anything coming off the stage because we're using a V-drum kit, and all the instruments are direct. A couple of them are going through Roland guitar synths, and then we have the Roland keyboard, of course, and so there's actually no noise at all coming off the stage whatsoever, except for what you hear the pads being hit, and that's about it.
Yeah, not much of that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. You know, as we age, as I age, I know, I'm being even more conscious about my hearing. Fortunately, my wife is a sign language interpreter for the deaf, and she's taught me a lot of signs. Most importantly, coffee. So ironic that she's with me. But the way we play on stage now, if it's loud on stage now, I actually just don't like playing it.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'll bring my in-ear monitors.
Yeah, I noticed you had them in earlier.
Yeah, and it blocks out most of the sound on stage. And I can monitor, even in the studio I use them, so I can monitor real low level. And I don't never want my ears ringing. Take care of your ears. Wear earplugs, get good monitors, and get as far away from the flipping guitar as you can.
Or the crash cymbals.
Or the crash cymbals, that's true.
Yeah, one of the things is, coming back to this studio situation that I like to point about the TD-20 is the ability to change the size of the drums, to change the microphone positions.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, instead of having that mic locker and three guys moving booms and everything everywhere.
Does it sound good now? No, it sounds like a more
Don't
direct...
move, sit there for 3 hours while I get this take.
Yeah,
You know.
been there, recorded like that. I think it's one of the interesting things is that the bar for sound has been raised over the years.
Absolutely.
You know, you listen to recordings. I remember a recording I just revisited recently was Brother to Brother album from Gino Vanelli. It was like 1979, 77, 78, 79, late 70s, I believe. And I remember the first time distinctly I heard that record going, my goodness, this is the best sounding record I've ever heard. Sonically, I mean, it was fat and big, and the drum sounds of Mark Craney playing were amazing. And I listen back to it now, it's kind of like, oh, it really wasn't that big, because the level of and quality of sound recording and reproduction is really just... And
Roland's been a big part of that, because it used to have to go $100 an hour to get demo quality.
Right.
Now it's $20 an hour in a project studio, or you can buy a Roland BR 1600 for under $2,000 with microphones and get killer sound. Not adequate, but pressable sounds.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's got drums in it.
Right.
Sort of.
I don't know how I feel about that one.
The same way you felt the first time you saw a drum machine.
I know. Great programming. Anyway, that's the 80s, reliving them. Yeah.
It made Bruce Hornsby a lot of money.
It did. Bruce rocks. Bruce can play.
Thank
There's
God.
another application for electronic percussion. We talked a lot about the acoustic simulations, which actually they are. Basically, these are recordings of the acoustic drums with those good quality mics and good quality mic preamps. So instead of just recording that on the tape, we're recording it into here, and we're able to play it back with sticks. So that's that middle ground acoustic. But there's also another dimension that I really love, and that's creating my own signature sound with electronic percussion. That might mean instead of doing tom sounds on the tom positions, I might put tablas up there, or I might put a talking drum where the kick drum is. So I can create a signature drum sound that's not necessarily a standard acoustic sound. So that gives me something unique.
Yeah,
and as a player and a producer, that's something that's a really valuable tool to have.
Yeah, and if you'd like to get a good feel for what he's talking about there, if you come down to the store, you can check out the TD20 kit that we've got set up, because John's got a lot of his signature patches in there that he's created, and it really gives you a whole new feel for what you can do with the kit. Because I mean, even though there are some great patches in there already, what you can do on your own with the kit is just absolutely amazing in making your own patches. I mean, I know, like your Zeppelin patches and things like that are just some great sounds in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, and Roland's made it easy, because after all, we are drummers, not the Mensa set most of the time. In fact, most of us don't even know what the Mensa set is. If you don't feel bad, Google it.
Yeah. Can you talk for a second about how this could benefit, even the guys that are doing the hip hop and R&B? I noticed that there's a lot of the old vintage drum machine sounds.
Well, there is. One of the things Roland did, we were talking about them being innovators earlier. What they did is they, the TR-808 or 909 electronica sounds. I mean, those are Roland sounds from the mid '80s. Like we've all heard it a million times. Generally, driving past our house at 3 o'clock in the morning, real loud. Or generally that's 3 o'clock in the morning, right? Those are things you can't do with acoustic drums.
Absolutely.
So here you've got.
Yep. And no, folks, I'm not going to rap.
And the really cool thing about that is you could go dig up on eBay one of those vintage old rhythm machines for thousands of dollars, and it would still take you 3 days to program what a drummer could do in 2 seconds.
If it worked.
If it worked.
Yeah. I often toy with trying to find a TR-808 for the heck of it.
The other thing that you were demoing for me that I think our viewers would like to see is you've got that red thing sticking out of the top.
This is
what is that all about?
Well, this is my little free 2 gig flash memory drive from CES in January from NBC. Thank you, NBC. Appreciate it. What I have on here, this actually on the TD9, it's a new feature for our drum modules. It allows us to do a couple things. First of all, we can store, backup all the parameters, like our own kits that we've made here, and back them up, 10 backups as a matter of fact, onto the card. We can also store these quick record patterns. Let me check this out. This is a feature. Let's slow it down a little bit. So there's a metronome on board, right? So about a practice tool, I can go. And play it back. Exactly what I just played.
Nice. Very cool.
Okay, so that's called quick record and quick play. I can store 99 of those little sequences onto the card. Or better yet, in addition to these 50 songs that are on board, of which I played one, I can scroll over and I can stream audio, wave data, so wave audio from the flash drive. So I can have up to 99 different songs of my own. So I just prepared these. This is actually from something I did on GarageBand, flying to a gig. It gets lonely on the airplanes. Just a moment. Okay, this one's called, so this is just me on my Mac and GarageBand. And so, by the way, sorry about that.
I'll get over it. Okay, I'm over it.
So these are my own tunes. I can grab a drum kit, So play along
Very
with stuff
cool.
that I've created on my own. Cool.
Well, this has been very enlightening, and look forward to having you come down some more, but we're about out of time here.
All right.
And
Well,
being that we're all musicians and like to play.
well, 3 musicians and a drummer. Okay, I went there, folks. That's,
Yeah, so that makes it okay.
yeah, it makes it okay.
Let's just play a little bit more for our folks while we're just winding down
do
here.
that.
Mike, thank you for coming. John, thank you for coming. Doc, you're paid to be here. I don't have to thank you.
Jack, thank you.
You're welcome anyway.
Okay. So, give us that shuffle thing from that world famous guitar player thing.